Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. In the wake of CitizenCon 2017, there was some further clarification from Sean Tracy about the internals of these massive procedurally generated cities that they showed, as well as a couple of interviews with Erin and Chris Roberts, done by Ilya Paley, an attendee at CitizenCon and YouTuber. Links below to his channel and the full interviews from him, but I will break down the yummy content here. With Erin Roberts' interview, with ships, you're going to be able to customise other things with the internals, not just systems and modules. So think possible furniture, gun racks, Big Benny's machines and aesthetic items, as long as you have space for them. Like the larger ships will have much more customization when it comes to like putting Big Benny's machines in. Maybe not all ships though, they're still fleshing out exactly how everything's going to work with that. It's possible that Squadron 42 might go into the EVA CAR-T for final testing, like basically when the game is pretty much ready for release and polished, just to make sure in the last few weeks that it's fully working as intended before going live. Squadron 42 is a story-driven semi-linear game, so you're in the military and you have set tasks, but there are large locations and different ways of doing them. It's just not a full open sandbox like the Persistent Universe is going to be for Star Citizen. They can stream faces and voices on ships. They are looking into players being able to stream their own playlists, so their own music via jukeboxes in-game. They're looking at it rather than actually saying they're going to implement it, because obviously there's issues with copyrights and stuff. The Reclaimer giant salvage ship is finished and flyable in the internal dev builds, but the salvage mechanics aren't done at the moment. They didn't give any time for a release for that. Onto the Chris Roberts interview. Friendships are possible between players and NPCs, but they're not sure about romances yet. I'm assuming this also is for Squadron 42. In fact, whether NPCs like you or not is a fundamental part of the game. Chris said previously that he'd been misquoted on the 5 to 10 systems at release. He was explaining to a journalist that once the game is in a playable state, with all the gameplay and mechanics and features in, there'll be around 5 to 10 explorable systems. So I'm thinking this means beta, basically. The full release is still aimed for many more explorable systems, with currently, I believe, they've got 120 in the works that they've got planned. Whether or not they're all being released is another story. I'm expecting 30 to 50 systems personally on release, and then more coming with each patch. And as they showed with the procedural tech that they've got for planets and the generation for missions, cities, all the different planets and points of interest, they're able to do that quite quickly. There will most likely be a limitation to the amount of NPCs that you can hire when you're talking about like hiring crews for capital ships. They're still working on exactly how much that's going to be. Hired NPCs aren't scripted, it's systemic stuff. The limit is likely to be based on performance limitations though, so they will try and get as many as they can in, I suppose, for you to be able to do. They don't want it to become SimCitizen, though, and they don't want to faff around with people going, well, I can run everything from the bar permanently, I don't have to play the game. Hangars that you have from your ship packages should enable you to not pay fees when storing your ships in hangars that you own. Hangars that you don't own will cost you fees, obviously. You'll be able to get hangars around the verse in various places. The plan with the monetization of the game after release is to sell game packages and sell UEC, so the in-game credits, in a similar way, I suppose, to Eve's Plex, though there is no need for a subscription, and they're still going to have the voluntary ones that will allow ATV and the other shows to kind of continue. That's not going to give you any in-game advantage having those subscriptions. They will explore, however, other options if necessary. They're a business and they're going to be sensible about it. They'll talk to the community if they need to do anything more. You're going to be able to loot armor, weapons, and items of killed enemies. Full looting. Derelicts will be placed in-game, and some procedurally generated, but there are also going to be player-made derelicts from, combat and people abandoning ships and stuff. Those ships and those derelicts and those blown-up bits will persist for as long as is sensible. Obviously, they're going for as long as possible, but for example, on the ground, you're going to see more details of a crash if that crash is fresh. So you'll see debris and smaller parts and trails of where the ship has actually crashed. Now, parts that are less important will despawn in like an order. So the smaller debris, the trails, the fire and that sort of stuff might despawn slowly, and then eventually the main body would also despawn too. But that could take hours or days or whatever. They will try and work it out so they can have it as long as possible, but as a sensible thing. They don't want millions of entities in the game because that will be a performance sink. Sean Tracy on Spectrum clarified a little bit what they meant by interiors in the cities and ecosystems and stuff. So not interiors in every building scattered across the ecosystems. He said Hey guys, for the sake of clarity and my own sanity, really want to clarify something from our tools presentation in the keynote at CitizenCon. Those tools, which he was specifically referencing as the internal procedural generation for buildings, have progressed like this. Outposts, procedural assistance to make tons of them, that's already in 3.0. Truck stops, aka small space stations, now filling those out at the same way they do outposts, then that's going to be coming beyond 3.0, and there's going to be landing zone areas further beyond 3.0. So basically, yes, they can create interiors very quickly and relatively easily, but there's not much gain from filling all the buildings in a whole planet, and it would make very little sense to do so. We'd need to do so many variations to avoid art fatigue, see the same Kasaba outlet in every commercial centre, etc. We'll absolutely fill out landing zones using the tools like this, but yeah, please don't expect a planet filled with buildings to be completely filled with interiors too. Planet Earth isn't even covered in buildings every square metre or anything, and if you spent your whole life trying to go into every single building on Earth, you wouldn't manage it in your lifetime. So they might spawn a room in a building somewhere to do a mission, or to meet a specific person or character, or to get a specific object, but not every single building. There is no intention at this time to fill every single building scattered across the ecosystems with interiors. Some perhaps, and some might even be spawned, but not absolutely every single one of them. Quite sensible, I suppose. You want those hero locations to be full of flavour and being interesting, and be able to have an artist look at them. They're going to have these great procedural tools for mission generation, for the filling out of planets with cities, with villages, with ecosystems, with flora and fauna and all of that jazz. But you want them to not be repetitive, boring. You want them to have interesting content, and if everything's just done procedurally and on this massive scale, a lot of people are just going to be lost in the procedural nightmare and not enjoy the game as intended, which is with that little, at least a little bit of an artist's flair on everything that you do and see. Everything needs to make sense. Every month we give away a ship. For October, it's a Constellation Aquila, Ursa Rover and P-52 Snubfighter, donated by our featured org, Stellar Enterprise. Links to them below. This might be the last video, actually. This is probably going to be the last video that I have until the next giveaway, so try and win, woo, comment. All you need to do is be subscribed to my YouTube channel and comment on any of my Star Citizen videos during the particular month. Any questions about Alpha 3.0, about CitizenCon, about anything else, Star Citizen's development and general type stuff, or questions you want for me. A special thank you to my patrons who allow me to create the amount of content I do. If you're interested in becoming one of them, then please find a link to Patreon down below, as well as everything else we've talked about. I've had an amazing month of donations and Patreons, so thank you so much, guys. It's super appreciated. We're doing Org Spotlight again soon, so stay tuned for that. Please don't forget to like and subscribe as well, as it really does help me, and I will see you in the verse.